Welcome to Christian Warrior Training. My name is Keith. In this episode, we're going to talk about a shooting that occurred at a church as children from the church's school were putting on a Christmas concert. There was a man that is in critical condition that was shot. We're going to break down the entire incident. Not only are we going to break it down, I'm also going to talk about what you can do to keep your church safe. We're going to break down this incident and talk about the finer concepts of this shooting, to talk about how you can prevent it at your church. It's no strike against the church this happened to. It's just that we have to learn from these things. Lastly, there was a concealed carrier that interrupted this whole thing. And we're going to talk about what the concealed carrier did and what they could do better, or if they did okay. We're going to talk about all that stuff. We're going to break it all down. But before we get into it, if you want free training, there's no gimmick. This is my gift to the Christian community. Head on over to courses.christianwarriortraining.com. I have started putting up free training for you guys. You can get a certificate of training. I am solely doing this to help my brothers and sisters in our faith. If you want to support my mission, then you can also do a paid subscription to my newsletter. My newsletter is always free. But if you want to help out and keep the lights on and keep this stuff going, then feel free to do a paid subscription. It helps me out a little bit. Go to christianwarriortraining.com, and then we will give you everything that you need to know about church security, include a weekly church crime watch where we break down all the crimes that occurred in churches the previous week. All right, let's get into this specific incident that happened in Dallas, Texas at Lakeview Presbyterian Church. There is a school co-located with this church, and the children at that school were putting on a Christmas concert. After the holiday concert, two men began arguing in the church parking lot. Now, those two men that were arguing, it was a father arguing with the stepfather of his children. And he felt, according to a charging document, he felt that the stepfather was yelling and being too harsh of his own children because the stepfather felt that the kids were being too loud at the holiday concert. During the argument, the father said that he feared for his life and shot the stepfather in both the legs and the abdomen. The father said he kept shooting until he felt that the threat was stopped. The stepfather was shot a total of 6 times. Now, he obviously, like reading the charging document, very obvious he's trying to set up a self-defense type scenario, but bystanders intervened. You had a concealed carrier who drew his weapon, pointed it at the father, and told him to stop. But you also had other people come in and start punching and subduing the father. In fact, the father suffered from a facial fracture and knocked out a tooth. The concealed carrier ordered the father to disarm. The father unloaded his gun, pulled a magazine out, took a round out of the chamber, and then placed it on the ground. The police arrived, and then he was taken into custody. Okay, I want to address the issue with the concealed carrier letting this man unload the gun. So here I've got one of my concealed carry guns. Okay. If you take this guy out at gunpoint, by allowing him to do this, you're allowing him to manipulate the weapon. He could even turn it this direction, right? And then you do this and then place it on the ground. Look, it doesn't matter. If he starts manipulating it, he's still pointing it at you, and that's still a threat. Okay. You don't want any of this manipulation. It's just put your gun on the ground now. Or drop the gun. I'd rather him just drop it, right? And then he should just drop it. If you're going to get involved as a concealed carrier, this whole unnecessary manipulation, that's more time the gun is in his hand. Drop the gun now. Drop the gun. Stop what you're doing. This whole unload it, rack it, doing all this, place it on the ground, it puts you at unnecessary risk. I suggest that you guys run this scenario at your church with your church security team using airsoft. Go ahead and we practice this at my church during active shooter training, and you just want to run through these scenarios over and over and over again. This is why when the police roll up on a scene, it's drop the gun and that's it. To be honest, if he is in the middle of shooting this person, and let's say you had seen this, I mean, it would be a good shoot if you shot him, especially if it's in the parking lot of a church. I know the comments are going to be filled with people saying what you should and shouldn't do. I just hope that you respect my 30 years of police experience doing leading officers in high-risk events, and yet just those comments in this comment section could be out of control at times. So we're trying to provide you good training so you protect your church and you protect yourself. All right, let's move on. We want to talk about more things that you can do to keep your church safe. You want to have your security team at major church events. So any major event that you have that's going to draw a crowd, it's just like some of these school concerts, you might have as many people at the concert as you would during your regular service. And with the threats that are going on right now, it's really imperative that you have your security team there for that. Look, does it Does it draw down your security team? Does it make them work a lot harder, especially when we're all volunteer? Of course, these are different times. You want to take training in de-escalation tactics. You can do that for free over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com. You can go ahead and take our course in de-escalation tactics and we'll give you a certificate for it as well. That is the minimum amount of training you need. You still need to go out and keep training yourself and getting more training everywhere you can. I'm just trying to provide it for free for you people so that you can help make your churches safer. You wanted to monitor families that are having issues. So as the church gets bigger, you're going to have more issues with restraining orders, custody orders, no contact orders. You're going to have beefs between parents and step-parents, obviously, like we had here. If you have these ongoing issues, you want to have a security intelligence officer whose only job is to look at these issues within the church and look at the threat that it brings. If it's a big enough threat, that intelligence officer can create a document that has everybody's pictures, history of what's occurred, and then you could put that in the safety team briefing board that people can look at and see what the biggest beefs are. So if we see them come in, we can monitor them during the service. And if we see things are getting heated, we can separate them using our de-escalation tactics. We can separate them so we don't have a shooting later on. This is all, pretty much everything is preventable. Now, you want to have that team briefing before every service, before the church concert, before any kind of a service. You want to get everybody together and say, this is what's going on. You're still going to talk about those people like, hey, this is Jim and Jane, and they come in at the 9 a.m. service. We're still having issues with them. Let's just keep an eye out. When you see them come in, if everything looks good, then you can just keep going about your day. But if it looks like things are tense, then you know to post somebody up near them in case something happens. And then most importantly, you want to keep this within the safety team. This doesn't need to be shared with greeters and parking lot people and everybody else because we do have privacy issues and we want to give these people privacy. You want to take care of them. Lastly, all problems start in the parking lot. I keep bringing this up over and over and over again. The parking lot is where everything is going to start for the most part. Not every single thing under the sun, but a lot of big issues happen in that parking lot. So you do want to keep an eye on your parking lots and see what's going on there. We've talked about all the things we can do to keep your church safe. We broke this incident down. If you were involved in this incident, feel free to reach out. I'd like to hear from you. If you're the concealed carrier, I'd love to talk to you about it. I'm only going off of news reports. So God knows the news makes errors constantly. Go and do your own research, follow up with everything. And the most important thing to remember out of all this is to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.